Well, guys, it's a day that ends in Y, and you know what that means? It means that Sonic fans are angry once again. And the reason for the latest drama is right here. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Of course, obviously, it's the next Sonic game. Why wouldn't Sonic fans be angry? From the day that this game got announced, there was a lot of speculation about certain things that would be in it. One of the things was the extreme gear. You guys remember the theories and videos, right? When the first cinematic teaser was released and people looked up and saw that, people thought, hey, the extreme gear might be in the game, and we speculated, we went back and forth, and then we finally got a real trailer for this game about 3 months ago, and we saw this. The extreme gear, it's actually in the game. Now that we have official confirmation that the extreme gear is going to be in the game, was that enough for Sonic fans? No, it wasn't. And honestly, I can understand why they're saying that. Because Sonic Racing Cross Worlds tweeted out some footage of the extreme gear. We have Jet the Hawk flying around in an old Sonic Riders location. We got voice lines, which people didn't really care for. But in particular, people noticed the gameplay. This looks a little different than the actual Sonic Riders that we know and love. It looks a little slower. Where's the wind mechanics? Does this even have distinct and unique mechanics? Well, the debate erupted after this came out. Keep in mind though, guys, if you guys look over here, IGN did say that Takashi Iizuka will be at IGN Live on June 7th. So we haven't even seen really everything that this game has to offer yet. So all this debate is really just speculation at this point, but I think we have a good idea based on what we've seen so far, what we can kind of expect. And that's kind of where the conversation is headed. And don't worry, guys, I took a trip to the old Metal City from Sonic Riders to investigate and make sure that we had the most accurate on-the-ground information possible. I even came onto the racetrack to look at the extreme gear right here. Oh my god, these guys are trying to hit me over here. And risked my life in order to investigate the extreme gear and take a look at it head on. So right here is the first post that highlights the difference between Sonic Racing Cross Worlds extreme gear and Sonic Riders. So by taking a look at the footage right here, you'll see how much faster he tricks, but also this is modded footage. They're literally using modded footage. And they're showcasing the differences right here between Cross Worlds and Riders. As you'll notice, the tricks are a lot faster, and obviously they're more relevant to your actual gameplay. One thing I'll say on the outset is that the animations, I feel like they look a lot more stiff. It doesn't feel like the animations have that same weight. I'll give them that, but again, we're not using the actual footage of the game, but there is that like contrast there. Don't worry though, guys, I'm an on-the-ground investigative reporter, and I'm able to give you guys the answer that you guys need. So we're pulling up, we got the speed going, we're gonna hit the tricks, and yeah, we're able to hit a couple right there. It's all about timing in Sonic Riders. Here's even more footage that showcases the trick variation that you can do in the game. So there definitely is a lot more speedy tricks in the actual original Riders game. So everybody remembers how in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, there's no stunt fail. So you can just spam infinite tricks if you have the gadget or whatever that allows you to do that. So with respect to that, this guy says, this looks so cool and skilled until you remember that this game lacks stunt fail. You cannot fail this, nor will you be reprimanded for overdoing tricks. Well, don't you guys worry, because I'm back on the ground again to explain to you what that means. So while you can spam tricks in Sonic Riders, the problem is if you don't actually land the trick, you'll get a worse rank, which will affect how much resources you get from actually completing the trick, which means that this game has a much higher skill ceiling than Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. So some people on Twitter have been complaining about the fact that there's no skill ceiling, or the fact that there's less of a skill ceiling than the Sonic Riders games, and which is the reason why the extreme gear is back in the game. But if the extreme gear is back in the game, and it's not really the extreme gear, that is the issue that Sonic fans are having. And that is kind of the crux of the argument. That is the main complaint. Essentially, a lot of people are talking about the extreme gear in this game and thinking that it's really just a reskin of the kart. It's not actually unique. There's no unique mechanics. It simply may not hold a candle to the original gameplay. This tweet right here says, I'm not really trying to be that guy, but look at it compared to the OG, and shows that the gameplay looks a lot more fast-paced. The tricks that the characters perform look better. The game looks more intense. This post right here quote retweeted the Cross Worlds footage and says, when your goat is washed. This person says boards are just car reskins with the dead flower emoji that they learned from TikTok. Extreme gear are just reskins of cars, 5 years to start up the new Riders copium again. This one says, I wasn't really expecting it to play differently, but this feels like an afterthought. Even outside of the stiff tricks, there's no sauce in these animations. Jet's unique riding pose with his arms splayed behind him, or his fans when he's boosting? Nope. Same generic board animations. This person says, it's insane to me how most casual players nowadays are against any amount of punishment for failure or risk reward in a game nowadays, even if I do kind of get it. The turning looks ultra stiff too. You can really tell they just quickly slapped the model over the cars and called it a day to appease the Sonic Riders requests. As per usual, mods are gonna have to pull through to add back the sauce. It's getting tired, but at least the games are still looking mechanically nice. How does this game look worse every time I see more of it? And they fumbled the extreme Extreme Gear. It's got heart, but it's just not the same. Really makes me appreciate the time that I had with these games as a kid, and I tried to keep that enjoyment from all the games I play now instead of getting mad all the time. Wow, that's actually amazing advice. I think everyone should follow suit. This person says, I know they weren't going to make it one-to-one with OG riders, but the tricks look so slow, and it's pretty much a reskin, but I'm okay with that, to be honest. It's like the bikes in Mario Kart. Yeah, this game might be ass. Gears are just reskin cars and is nothing unique. This person says, I really hope Extreme Gears have as much variation as cars. This person says, I'm sorry, but this looks super unengaging. There's no sense of velocity, speed, or excitement. Sonic games recently are kind of forgetting the fast bit about the character. The camera is not dynamic enough. It should trail temporarily when boosting to show its impact like the original. Zoom in when tricking off the ramp type at the start of the video. It stays constant, so the speed feels the same even though you're moving faster, but advantages are here. I knew the hoverboards are skins for cars with no difference. It was so obvious. Damn it, I gotta find the tweet. This person says, I really hope this is just a slower mode because then it would be unsatisfying. Needs to have the fast speed of Riders, which is true. Riders is definitely a very fast-paced game, and honestly, it has a really high skill ceiling. This tweet also says, does this game look incredibly slow to anyone? So with respect to how slow the game actually looks in like the beta marketing footage, there is allegedly going to be a supersonic speed option. I mean, similar to Mario Kart, how you have 50cc, 100cc, 150, 200. I don't think the Extreme Gear is going to be that slow if you choose not to play that way. So guys, we're back on the ground once again, risking our lives. There's like a wind thing above my head, so I'm just hoping that you guys appreciate the fact that I'm making this video. But we're here to investigate and explain the mechanics of Sonic Riders and truly determine if the Extreme Gear is actually just a reskin based off of the evidence that we have. By analyzing the new clip of Jet the Hawk, there's one thing that kind of stands out to me. One thing in particular is the fact that when he does his tricks, yeah, there's no trick fill. Another thing that I'd like to point out to you guys is when he drifts, if you look right here, this is the same exact drift that you would see in a car. We already played Sonic Racing Cross Worlds a couple of months ago, so we know exactly how this game functions with respect to the drift. If you take a look right here, you will notice that yes, it's the same exact type of drift mechanic, similar to Mario Kart. Now, I don't know exactly how the Extreme Gear feels. I haven't actually played the game yet, but based off of this, it does kind of look like a reskin. If you take a look at the bikes in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is what the Extreme Gear is currently being compared to, there is actually a slight difference between the two. There's something called inward drift and outward drift. The carts have outward drift, the bikes have inward drift, so it's going to adjust how you play the game. It's not a change on a fundamental level like the difference between Riders 1 and the kart racing game, but it's still different nonetheless. So I'm hoping they give some type of variation for competitive gameplay. Also, in Sonic Riders, there was a resource management system. In order to stay on your hoverboard and not run around on foot, which by the way, I always thought was really cool, you have to make sure that you're doing tricks and maintaining the air in your board. The UI in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is technically hidden right now. We don't actually see what's going on. Maybe that's deliberate and by design, but ultimately it doesn't look like there is a resource management system. So I'm back on the ground to show you again the drifting in Sonic Riders and to explain to you why, yeah, it probably isn't going to be the exact same. And I'll even talk about why it may potentially be a good thing. So drifting in Sonic Riders is pretty interesting. It's more of like a drift boost if you saw what I just did right there. Instead of just having a free drift like you have in Mario Kart, you actually have to, one, make sure you have the resources to do so. You have to hit the turn at a certain angle and it'll boost you forward. Which, by the way, the Sonic Riders games also features a boost. So just like functionally on a mechanical level, it's a way different game than Sonic Racing Cross Worlds and way different than how it's probably going to function. So is the fact that this isn't Riders 2.0 a good thing? Well, I came across this tweet right here and it provided some interesting perspective. It says, thank God the Extreme Gear plays like the cars in Cross Worlds apparently. For me, because I hated that learning curve, I don't have time for that. So that kind of made me think for a second, and it's like, you know what? The kart racing demographic, the kart racing genre is meant to appeal to the most broad, wide audience possible. Unfortunately, whether you like it or you don't. Think about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Nintendo Switch alone has sold 67 million units. That is absurd. For context, that is like 2.5x the sales of Super Mario Odyssey, the actual masterpiece mainline platformer game. When you think about it, there's probably people that have only played the Mario Kart series and never played an actual Mario game. I know that might be crazy for some of you who watch like my content, which is a little bit more niche down, but it's a reality. It's also probably hard to believe, but if you look at the Metacritic score for the Sonic Riders original game, it only got a 55. Like, these games technically weren't even received that well, despite the fact that it has a good user score, so the Sonic fans do like the game. And maybe it was just a little bit more ahead of its time, as evidence in like the competitive scene that you see with Riders today. But I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to balance this issue. The fans really like one thing, but the numbers say otherwise. Look at the sales for the Sonic Riders series versus the Sonic Racing series. Sonic Riders sold 3.68 million units as a series. The Sonic Racing series sold over 11 million units. So at the end of the day, yeah, the fan fans might cry and they might complain, and maybe it's warranted and rightfully so. Like, I love the Riders games, but this right here is the only thing that matters to Sega, so you gotta balance it. Unfortunately, the game is called Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, not Sonic Riders, so it's gonna be fundamentally on a core level a different game. One of the biggest things for these type of games is that you're gonna have to implement some balancing into it. I don't think you can just slap the Sonic Riders gameplay and physics into this game and have it still work the way Sega wants it to. We're appealing to the most casual audience, unfortunately, so that's just the way it goes. Still, at the end of the day, the Riders fan inside of me would like to see some variation with these hoverboards. Maybe it doesn't have to be one-to-one with Sonic Riders, but I'd like to see some variation there between the vehicle types. They haven't shown us the Extreme Gear yet, so we're all just speculating at this point. They've been keeping it under wraps, so it's only a matter of time before it's revealed, and maybe there's some hidden things we haven't seen yet.